Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Matt Douthit, Bill Lindquist, and Simon Coles, and we will be talking about how to handle creepy, weird, pushy, and out-of-line sales tactics.
Well, B2B, you just put the phone down. I guess you can do the same as a consumer, but it's probably a little bit harder to do. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because there was a time where I was just getting all these calls, and it was primarily tied to like Social Security. And I finally answered the call and said, please don't call me. And I know a lot of it's just robocall, so it's not, maybe doesn't qualify for your pushy piece. It is interesting either through LinkedIn or recently through emails. I mean, I'm getting this one email because yes, I'm a franchise owner. So this person is a buyer and seller of franchises, and constantly. And it's like, I'm not responding to the emails, but it's like, well, you haven't responded to me. And, I want to keep reaching out. I mean, you just wonder, I can kind of understand maybe their approach, but if they think they're winning, me any interest in doing business, it just kills it. And I know on the LinkedIn front, I'll get requests, hey, let's connect, and it's like there's no connection. It's like why are you reaching out to me? You're not even offering me a reason to even want to call you, and yet you'll ping me a couple of times as if somehow we need to connect. And I personally just don't view it that way. So.
I feel like on LinkedIn and in emails, it's really easy to just ignore them. I mean, even when I invite people to do quick hits, I get ignored more often than not. Probably easily 2/3 of people ignore me when I invite people to do quick hits. So that's super easy. But if you're sitting in front of someone or on a Zoom call that's supposed to be a networking thing and someone's being super aggressive, that makes it harder.
Yeah. I mean, I know personally, I would probably, it would take a lot for me to finally say, I just need to leave. I know I would be trying to be as polite as possible and just kind of hear them through to figure out how to gracefully exit if they're really getting to the point. I can't say I've had any creepy, part of your adjectives that I've had any creepy ones, but certainly from a pushy standpoint, you're in a networking meeting and there you are in front of people and they kind of walk up to you and say, hey, what do you do? And then they launch into something that really isn't germane to what you have. Sadly, I think I'll sit there and pleasantly do it until I can figure out a way of kind of walking away.
Yeah, Bill, I think I've turned more into a curmudgeon than what you just described, because I think that a lot of especially the in-person, whether it's Zoom or somebody in person who's just taking up with the oxygen in the room, and there are other people especially, it's really hard, who's going to be the first one to say, find a way to, as politely as possible, say, you're out of line, or let's change the topic. And I've just gotten a little more aggressive because I realize that people take advantage of people's good manners and civility. And so they get real aggressive, and it's a number, and in sales, it's a numbers game, and the odds tell me that something will turn out from that. And I've gotten, when they get really pushy and, throwing fake compliments out and things like that, then I'm really, my barriers of politeness go down and I start to get a little rude with them, and then hopefully that shuts them up. But yeah, I had consultants come up to me some years ago when I was in more corporate life, and even at the government, people will stand outside the doors and they'll just kind of come up on you, and it's, your first layer is polite, and then after that it's like, buzz off, man. This is not, your technique is not working here.
And
it's usually men. It's usually men, I have to say.
That's my creepy point.
Yeah. I don't think we get the creepy things, but I suspect as a woman you probably do.
Yeah.
I've found more and more that it's just, can I just stop you there? I am not your target customer. Any minute you spend talking to me is a waste of your time. You can continue this conversation.
Love it. Love it.
I like that one.
The problem is they're taught to keep going. There's a certain layer of cold calling and stuff like that where they just bash down barriers. And I fear for them because they've probably got somebody standing behind them going, that conversation was only 15 seconds long. You didn't try hard enough.
Yeah, and it's true from the phone perspective to the point where you almost don't even answer. I mean, I look at the area code and it's like, okay, unless it's something that I really think it's here, or if it's local to say Charleston, maybe. But if it's real, so to speak, then they'll leave a voicemail, and usually 90% of the time they don't. So it's it's constant, and that's sad. I mean, to a degree, I guess I view it as sad, where the once or twice you answered, Simon, it's kind of funny you say that, because you hear others in the back. I mean, it's just, I'm like, oh, this isn't what I didn't want to answer this one. And then, and I am probably a little bit more forthright on phone than I am in person, but it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not interested, and just kind of move on and not wasting your time. But as, I don't know if Matt, if you were the one that said, or Simon, I just said, just hang up. It's like, I'm gone. Sorry, bye. I know it's tougher in a, there you are at the networking meeting, and just to say, let me just turn my back on you and walk away. But, there is a point where, and I agree with you, Matthew, that you have to be a little bit more forceful at some point to say, I'm not your person.
I think only once in person at a networking event have I ever said to someone, I'm not having this conversation with you, and literally turned on my heel and just walked away from them. I'm usually not that rude, but I really feel like if someone's being rude to me, I'm out. And I think as the older I get, the more likely I am to be intolerant of someone being rude to me. It's not my job to set myself on fire to keep somebody warm.
I think there's a flip side of this, which is, how do you cold approach without being what we don't like? And I don't have an answer to that.
Well, I mean, what I do with quick hits isn't selling. So I can't really say, oh, I'm selling something. I'm actually offering an opportunity. So I do just reach out and say, hey, do you want to do this? I feel a little bit like a puppy. Come play with me.
But you're doing it on LinkedIn, and I get 10 approaches a day on LinkedIn. Everybody's saying the same words as you. I don't read my LinkedIn.
A lot of people don't, which is why I get ignored by so many, which is fine. It's the people that I feel like the right people who will be interested in doing something like this are the ones who notice and go check them out and come back and say, oh, that looks like fun. Yeah, I'll have a conversation with you about it. And, the ones that don't, well, then, oh, well. I guess the first thing you have to do is have a really good idea of who your target market is. Because if you are targeting everyone with a shotgun approach, you're going to end up with the vast majority of people not being in your market.
You have to tailor it to what you're selling to, I think. If it's an ongoing sort of coaching relationship or something like that, you're going to have probably a richer, more considered approach. Whereas if you're just trying to sell them a, haircut or something.
Yeah, and I think, it becomes so personal. I mean, it's interesting, even for me. I mean, even with the franchise, I do therapeutic massage. I mean, the interesting thing about it is that, statistics say, only 25% of the people out there even get a massage. And so people, they understand the concept, they may like it. And it's like, and I'm not saying, hey, come on in and get a massage. I mean, I don't do that when I'm out and about, but it's interesting how to, how do I approach somebody who may be very cautious about doing something as simple as this. I mean, I'm not even trying to get, it's a service. So I know for me, in terms of selling, and if I call it selling, it really is the personal approach. I mean, at least I found in my business that somehow, if you can make that connection, it becomes so much more important that there is a, I mean, it's kind of the story, Matthew, I was telling earlier about when I started out and I just looked at zip codes, because I wanted to say, if I recognize a zip code as Boston or Buffalo or Cleveland, I mean, at least I had a connection to say, hey, I lived in Buffalo, or I was born in Cleveland, or I grew up, whatever, looking for that connection. So that way it wouldn't seem weird or creepy, like, why is this guy walking over me to talk to me? I had this, at least somehow, and some would say, hey, that's great, and others would just look at me like, okay, and I kind of knew to walk away. So it kind of works that way, so you get over that piece.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I'm not in sales, but I think there is a common thread here, that you want to be, most people are open to be persuaded, not necessarily for the haircut pitch or the widget pitch, but, providing a service. And that's something else, and finding that connection. Like Bill, I wouldn't pivot if you had approached me and found something common, and I could tell you were just, well, you saw my zip code and you were, talking about the business you're in. Most people, I think, are open to that. And not being in direct sales myself, I just wonder, there must be a percentage of the population that responds to those emails. Otherwise, they wouldn't go out. So it's sort of like this weird two worlds. One of them I understand, the other one I don't understand.
So the difference with email, and also to some extent LinkedIn, is it's very cheap to do.
Right. Yeah.
So the barrier that they will just email everybody.
Well, guys, that is our 10 minutes. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I appreciate it greatly, and we'll do it again very soon.